I performed like a complete goose the first time I took this Celik Arms Chimera PB223 into the bush, but this little push button rifle made up for my shortcomings. It left me with a great first impression of the rifle and a dead boar at my feet. Now, I hadn't even seen the little porker, even though it was just 15 metres away, and it bolted 0 to 100 in a nanosecond. I raised the rifle, tracked the animal through the weeds, squeezed the trigger and rolled the fleeing feral. I was pretty happy with that, absolutely nailed it. Now that I could take such a quick, instinctive shot successfully the very first time I used this rifle in the field, to me says a lot about its excellent handling. It's one of the new breed of self-ejecting button release rifles we're seeing here in Australia, where our restrictive laws have previously limited us primarily to turn bolt, straight pull, lever action or pump action rifles. The Chimera is a Category B rifle, except in Western Australia, where it's banned under those new dreadful police-driven gun laws. It's no semi-automatic, but it is in some ways simpler and certainly less effort than other kinds of Category B firearms. The Chimera has been a long time coming. It once looked like it would be the first of these new Turkish-made self-ejecting 223s to hit the market, but it was delayed primarily by development issues, which I'll touch on in a minute. Now, nearly 2 years after we first reported it was coming, it's finally here. The cycling system is gas operated, meaning that after you fire a shot, some of the expanding gases inside the bore are siphoned off through a small hole in the barrel, just under the barrel ring here. This high pressure gas is what opens the action. The gas piston inside here is fixed in the barrel collar and it doesn't move, but instead acts more like a nozzle to direct the gases rearward into a closed cylinder on the nose of the action bar. That jet of gas thrusts the bar backwards. The bolt carrier is fixed to the other end of the action bar and contains a rotating bolt head. In typical fashion, the carrier moves back a few millimetres before a cam begins turning the bolt head out of the chamber's locking lugs. There are 7 lugs on the AR style bolt head, with an extractor claw where the 8th lug would have been if they'd had one, and a single plunger ejector that flings spent cases well clear as the action opens. Once open, the action is locked that way, and this is where the Chimera differs from most button release designs. The locking catch is on the fore end and hooks up at the front of the action bar. The release button is also in the fore end, and you jab it with your thumb on your left hand, and the return spring, also in the fore end, shunts the whole works forward again, chambering around and locking the action shut, cocked, ready to shoot again. In over 250 rounds of testing the Chimera, it suffered not a single stoppage, never failing to eject or chamber, using more than half a dozen different kinds of factory load. This is one of the critical tests for a rifle like this, and it's also at the heart of the delays that I mentioned earlier in getting the Celik onto the market. I can't offer any criticism of its performance here. The Celik comes with 2 10-round magazines. They're PMag style, but made by Key Armour. When they're empty, a bolt stop holds the action open, and a second bolt release lever on the left side of the action is there to overcome the stop when the shooting's over or you've replaced the mag with a full one. You also need to then hit the primary release button as well. The magazines are double stacking, easy to fill, reliable in operation, and have little windows that allow you to see how many rounds are left when they're full. The magazine release button is mounted on the right side of the action here, just ahead of the trigger. You'd think that mounting the bolt release button on the left of the forearm means that this is not an ambidextrous rifle. However, it's actually very easy to manipulate this button with your choice of either your index or middle finger on your right hand if you're a lefty. And happy days if that's you, because the stock shape is the same left and right. It's only the knurled knobs that adjust the cheek piece that might cause you any irritation, but you could probably replace them with low profile ones if you needed to. I like the stock design a lot. Its angularity disguises a comfortable fit that you wouldn't necessarily expect. It has a nice curved profile up front to wrap your hand around, and this straight but neatly angled pistol grip should also suit the majority of shooters in any shooting position, from prone to standing. The grip matches the trigger's position and its angle of pull, with enough latitude in hand position that it won't matter if you have a large hand or a small one. The flat butt has a generous recoil pad. The butt you see here is actually the New South Wales compliant one, which doesn't telescope. But if you check out the Australian Sporting Agency's website, you'll see there are other versions available, as well as a synthetic one that resembles several $1,000s worth of burl walnut. It's very pretty, yet weatherproof. If the butt stock on this test rifle is familiar, it's because it's also used on a number of Turkish shotguns. The weight is centred fractionally further forward than on a typical rifle, mainly because of the extra mass of the gas system inside the fore end. When I had it scoped up with a neat little Zerotech 1:8x24, the Chimera's balance was under the front edge of the magazine. It creates a rifle that swings smoothly on targets, yet also points quickly. The Celik weighs 3.9 kilograms bare, which is a fair heft for a small rifle, but this also endows it with extra stability when you're shooting offhand. There's very little recoil from the 223, especially as the gas system takes a little of the kick out of it. If you add the thread-on muzzle brake, which I've got fitted here, it comes supplied with the rifle, there's about the same recoil as a 22 rimfire, but you'll definitely want hearing protection. With the brake attached so that recoil is damped to almost nothing, the quick cycling push button setup also helping, you can stay on target tenaciously and the Chimera becomes a very effective culling tool. It is, as I said, a really nice handling scrub gun. The forearm mounted bolt release does have one drawback, and smaller people are going to notice it. It dictates that your forward hand must be positioned next to the button, or at least really close to it, which for some people is going to be a stretch if you've got shorter arms. My natural grip fell about 4 centimetres short, but I found it easy to adapt to this and just change my stance a bit. You also need to be aware of the Celik's propensity to release the action if you lie it down on its left side on the release button. If there's a full magazine in the gun at the time, it'll chamber around. The trigger deserves mention. My gauge told me that the average release weight was just over 3 kilograms, which doesn't sound impressive, but on the bench and in the field, I would not have guessed it. The let-off feels a lot lighter than that, and for this rather simple kind of hammer releasing trigger design, there was not much creep and it was smooth. No, it's nothing like the beautiful triggers that you often get in a good quality turnbolt rifle, but it's definitely a cut above the norm of other guns of this ilk. And that'll help you be more accurate. The Chimera's accuracy is what I'd call adequate, on par for this style of rifle. It's capable of firing 5-shot groups within 1.5 to 2 MOA once you find a load it likes, as you can see in this table. Those ones worked well in this rifle. That's comparable with most lever actions, pump actions, and the only other 223 push-button rifle on the market at the moment, the Alcor. It's no target rifle, but competently fulfills its intended role as a quick-shooting, short-range hunting rifle. It did take a lot of trial and error to find a few loads worth persisting with. I couldn't source anything heavier than 55 grain loads, unfortunately, but there's potential for good results with them because the Chimera runs a fairly fast 1 in 8 twist rate in its barrel. The barrel's only 47 centimetres or 8.5 inches long, tapering gently to 16mm at the muzzle and with flutes to reduce weight. It will get hot when you're shooting a lot, of course, but it seems to handle it well. Groups will open up as heat builds, but the shots all remain within minute of pig accuracy out to about 100 metres. Like all gas-operated guns, the Chimera gets messy inside with gas residue, but it doesn't gum up, and it'll be forgiving if you're a bit slack about cleaning it. Maintenance isn't hard either. Stripping the rifle requires an Allen key, which is supplied, and maybe a punch and a small rubber mallet, at least while the clearances for the pins are still nice and tight. The manufacturer provides us clear instructions about doing it, along with a video, so I'm not going to go into the detail here, but I will add that the only difficult thing is releasing the charging handle on this side of the rifle. There's a small spring-loaded slide that you have to move backwards with your thumb or your finger, and it's not easy to move against a stiff spring. It's the only way to pull the handle out before you can pull the bolt out. Otherwise, this is an easy rifle to live with. It's also supplied with sling swivels, an accessory rail under the fore end, a nice little cleaning kit in a pouch, and the 2 magazines that I mentioned before. There's also a pick rail up top for scope mounting. It appears well made and the quality of finish is good with a tough matte black coating on all of the metalwork. The Chimera lives up to its promise and proved itself perfectly reliable during the test. If it's your kind of rifle, but the 223 doesn't cut it for pigs and bigger animals, there's a 308 version available too, which I hope to test in the near future. For its low recoil and ability to keep you on target as you work through a magazine, the Chimera PB223 has plenty going for it. I want to say a quick thanks to my local gun shop Mudgee Firearms for help with transfers for this test and having a good supply of ammo on hand.